Hello everyone, it's DuckFaden07. Today we are playing, as announced, one more deck containing Orcish Bowmasters and Burning Inquiry. This time it's a deck that often ends up on my channel. It's a HollowVine, whatever. This time with Orcish Bowmasters, there has been a lot of talk about uh, people saying is Orcish Brewmaster playable in a HollowVine, and a lot of people asking me, do I have a list? Did I play it? Whatever. And um, I had some other things going on, but I had that in plan too. And this is my list, and I'm very happy with it. Very happy with the performance so far. And immediately in the first try, I got the 5-0 in the friendly league, and all matches have been competitive, and one match I had a bit of luck where I punted and then my opponent ran out of time. But anyway, I'm very happy with the overall performance, and as I already said in my previous two videos, Orcish Bowmasters plus Burning Inquiry can just be too crazy for some decks, and they just can't deal with this. And incredible thing is that you don't really play interaction here. You're just playing aggressive creatures that can end the game quick, but deck still has a lot more interaction than it seems, because Orcish Bowmaster can really kill some low toughness creatures in the format. It is good when opponent is attacking you. When it enters, you ping damage, then you can block with the Orc. And Asmo also deals 6 damage to any creature if you have 2 foods. But also we have a Call of the Dead Dweller. This is a card that I don't know if ever seen any play in the modern, but it has some potential with Orcish Bowmaster, and I really liked it. And in this deck, it really has some good use, because this card says return 2 target creatures cards with total mana value 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. You put a death touch counter on one of them and put a menace counter on either of them. Okay, so you return Orcish Bowmaster with the death touch, and then Orcish Bowmaster ping any creature and immediately kill it. So and it's not just that, you get another creature on the field too. So for example, you can get Death Shadow and Orcish Bowmasters on the field, or Bowmasters plus Asmo or Neonate, or you can get something like Seasoned Pyro and Asmo, or just Seasoned Pyro. Sometimes it's good enough. So it has a lot of use here, and sometimes you get the nuts with it, like get Large Shadow plus Orcish Bowmaster killing, Large Shadow with Menace, and Orcish Bowmaster killing opponent creatures, also like Spyro and Asmo. But sometimes you get something medium, like Orcish Bowmasters with Detach and Neonate, and it's still like pretty good, and you will be pretty happy with it. Okay, so on the sideboard, some more creatures we can use to the Call of Dead Dwellers. There are guys that destroy artifacts, enchantments, some Blood Moons, Furies, some more removal, and Totsis. I opted for the Dismember because they work so well with the Death Shadow. This is a Death Shadow deck, so we're trying to use our street rates and the fetches, a lot of fetches there, as to lose as much life in the early turns to be able to play Shadow as soon as possible. We want to be able to play it so we can trigger our Vengeance. This build is slightly slower than the previous HollowVine builds you could see on my channel, but it has a lot more value, and it's more mid-rangey, but you will see that it can be really aggressive too, and had a lot of turn 4 wins, and sometimes even turn 3. Okay, so that is it. So we already talked about in the previous videos how good the Burning Inquiry and the Orcish Bowmaster interaction is. So basically, it's very similar to the Fury Scam. You get a 4/4 token body and 1/1 Bowmasters plus 4 damage wherever you want. One by one, you deal So on a turn 3, it can be a real blowout against aggro decks, similar as Fury can be. And Call of Death Dweller can be used with the Bowmasters in a good way to destroy any creature with just a single ping. And that's it. So the Ox of Agonas and Stage Rate is our fuel to cast Asmo in the early turns and to be able to cast a Shadow. Also, Totsis and Dismembers are there in the post-board games to even further accelerate that. Hollow ones, of course, so we want to have always like additional interaction with Burning Inquiry, so it's not just Bowmasters plus Inquiry. In the previous decks I played in the Rakdos, I had a Waste Knot, which was great with Inquiry. In the Grixis, I had also Narset, in addition to Bowmasters, which was great with Inquiry. And here we have a Hollow One, another great Burning Inquiry payout. And also we benefit from discarding the Ox of Agonas and Vengewine, of course, but it also serves as an enabler to cast Asmos sometimes. That's it. So I think we can now watch the league I played. Uh, uh, First league I played immediately went 5-0. 9-1 was my total score with this deck today. And yeah, okay, so I left two Asmos in hand. I had a turn one Asmos, so in case my Asmo gets bolted, I will have a cookbook and another Asmo to recast it. I also have the Bowmasters plus a Burning Inquiry, which is pretty good. Opponent goes for the Ren and 6. Then I attack the Ren and decide to just go for the Bowmasters to ping Ren and finish him off. So I think this was a good turn for me. Killed opponent's Ren. I put 5 power on the field. So again I cycle the Street Rate. I play my second Asmo. At this point I have even third one. On the field, I attack for 2 damage, and since I don't have an extra mana and don't have removals, I just play the cookbook and just let them do the Archon thing. Don't have other options. End of turn, I do make a food token, and on my turn I make another one. So I actually misplayed here. I should have just. It doesn't matter, but I should have just killed Archon with the food. And after I saw that I didn't discard the first Inquiry, I should have just killed the Archon with the 2 food tokens and then deal the 6 damage to face, because I would have a kill on the same turn, but it doesn't really matter because my opponent really can't do much here. I still have Asmo and 2 foods open. I go for another Inquiry. My opponent plays the Pierce, so I pay the mana. I get 3 more three more triggers to ping opponent for the 3 damage. This means that even if even if they block Asmo, they still die to the Bowmasters. So that was it. So I had a little punt there, where I could have killed opponent last turn, but yeah, I won anyway, and I was in a too good situation. But let's see the game 2. Okay, in the game 2, I decide to keep one lander. Well, this definitely can end up badly if I don't get something playable. I decide at this situation to get rid of the Brennan 6 and hoping to find a solution for the creativity, like in the last game. But it is definitely a bit different this game because opponent is playing first. So they go for the Fable, but they don't have a mana to cast the Fairy. End of turn, I play my Bowmasters. Ping opponent for the damage. And get the Neonate. So Neonate enabled me to cast the Asmo, so I was able to get the Asmo, get the cookbook, but unfortunately no mana, so I can't really do much this turn. Opponent doesn't use the Fable because of the Bowmasters and doesn't use the creativity. They don't use creativity this turn, but they go for the second Fable, and it was good for me because I top decked a second Thoughtseize to discard their creativity. So now they basically had just the Fairy and the Dwarven Mine. They top decked the Leyline Binding to kill Bowmasters in response to the Fable trigger. So this way they were able to discard both cards from their hand without me pinging their Kiki-Jiki. So I play another Asmo. Opponent casts Reprieve, but I can just recast the Asmo again. I have the food tokens here. I find another cookbook and kill the Kiki-Jiki, attack the Vren 6. My opponent has only one card in hand at this point, so I can't really do much if they top deck the creativity, and they top decked it, played it for 2, so that's it. Okay, so let's check out the game tree. The game tree is much easier when I'm on the play and if I have a decent hand. So in this situation you can like do multiple things. Of course, burning Inquiry into Hollow One on turn 1 is great, but there is a chance that you don't just discard your Thoughtseize and don't see it again. I think Thoughtseize is very good in this match, so I decided to get rid of the Brennan 6 and then find another Inquiry, cast Asmo, find a cookbook, cast a Hollow One, bring back Vengevine from the graveyard. Really good turn. Like it doesn't get much better than this, really. So my opponent had 4 cards in hand. It was one prismatic ending, and yeah, so they decide not to use the prismatic ending. I don't know why, but they didn't. Oh, they had the binding of okay. They had the binding, and they went for bolt on the Vengevine, which means they survive on 1 life after my attack with Asmo. So I play the Neonate, attack with Asmo, put my opponent on 1 life, they get the planes, and they had a pretty decent hand. They had a Fable and the Prismatic Ending I knew about to kill the Asmo. In response, I killed the Shaman token, and they returned a land from the graveyard, so they weren't able to ping the Neonate, and the Neonate was lethal in this case. So that was it. They were just not able to deal with everything. I also had the Ox in my graveyard, 2 Oxes actually, if I just get another red mana. Okay, so that was it. That was game 1. Let's go to the next match. In the match 2, I played first. I had double Bowmasters, and this can really be brutal sometimes when you're playing first and you top deck a Burning Inquiry. It can really be like really disgusting. So in this situation, I top deck the Inquiry. My opponent goes for the Ragavan dash, and this is just disgusting. So I ping opponent's Ragavan. On my turn, this is I don't know, This is the reason I enjoy playing this deck. So the double Bowmasters, ping opponent face, go for the Burning Inquiry, deals 6 damage to face, puts 6 counters on the my Orc Army token against mono red deck that really just don't have any solutions to deal with this 8/8 army token on turn 3. I attack for 9 damage, putting my opponent on 4 life, and they definitely can't deal with this, and that's it. Okay, so very quick game 1. Let's check another match. I had to mulligan this one. Sorry, yeah, I forgot. I kept this one. So, yeah, I think this is the only deck that can keep 0 landers. When you have 2 street raids, I got 3 street raids and Blood Crypt. This is actually like turn 1 Dead Shadow, which is pretty sick. I played Asmo instead. So that way I use my opportunity to play Asmo. I didn't have other discard outlets, so I just play the cookbook this turn. I discard Vengewine. My opponent can't really tap out. If they tap out, I'll be able to return my Vengewines. I discarded one of the Vengewines, so this way, if they play some creature, I can just discard something else and kill the creature. I also don't need to force it. So they had the Blast Zone. I didn't want to play my Shadows, or at least both of them. So I was okay with playing one of them, and I played the Bowmasters, and then I played Death Shadow, forcing my opponent to crack the relic. And now I can discard Vengewine if I want. Now I can discard Vengewine and put it into the graveyard for the next turn. I attack with everything, putting my opponent on 4 life, and I have 2 Bowmasters on the field, which means they can't really use the Fable. So I also got the free kill on the Kiki-Jiki because of the Relic of Progenitus draw card. So they had double Fury here, but even that wasn't enough. So that was easy win. Okay, let's check out the next win. Match number 3. Playing second. I mulliganed to 6 cards, kept a decent 6. I have a Neonate Vengewine. This was a creativity matchup, I think. So I have the Burning Inquiry. I decide to just go for the Bowmasters this turn and then try to resolve the Death Shadow, try to play the Neonate, discard Vengewine, Death Shadow next turn, plus Inquiry. I went for the Bowmasters, ping my opponent to face. They don't have open mana, so I can just freely kill. I ping, sorry, I ping the token, I kill the token, I play my Death Shadow, return both of my Vengewines. I also have 4/4 army token here, so I attack with everything. This is 13 damage, putting my opponent to 3 life. So even if my opponent has creativity here, I still win next turn. And yeah, they didn't have it. They did have a bolt plus binding plus second bolt, which was like really good, but still not enough. Opponent kind of stabilized on 1 life. Now I had 5 mana to just start casting 5 mana creatures from my hand. I attacked with Vengewine. Opponent was forced to block with Dwarven Mine. They were on one card in hand at this point. In the top deck mode, trying to find the creativity. It's really not that easy to find it. And I had Vengevine plus Shadow to bring back another Vengevine from the graveyard, so that was more than enough. And the GG here. And okay, so let's go check out the next game. Pretty brutal start. My creativity opponent did have like really a lot of cards there. So I draw hand with double HollowVine, but unfortunately no no Burning Inquiry. I find a Shadow, but what I really need is a Street Rate because I'm hoping to go for the Season Pyromancer, discard Vengevine, and then if I can get a Street Rate, that means that I can cast my HollowVines immediately. I didn't get it, so I decided to just hold for another turn and cycle one of the HollowVines. I discard Vengevine, 2 cards, hoping to find a land to cast the Death Shadow, bring back Vengevine, but that didn't happen. So it was bad news for me. Opponent had the creativity there. After me not getting a land, that was just very bad news, and I had to concede, so that was the game. Let's check out the game 3. So playing first in creativity against creativity with this deck can really be aggressive, and I kept. I probably think this was the worst hand all day, but I had the Totsis plus Dismember, 2 pieces of decent interaction, and I removed the binding. My opponent hand was pretty similar to mine. It was kind of trash and they had Atraxa and Hollow Moonlight in their hand after me discarding the binding. So I was able to go for turn 2 Orcish Bowmasters. Uh, we've seen how good can it be if you top deck Burning Inquiry. I didn't get the Inquiry or anything else, just Dismember, which wasn't that good in this situation. My opponent played Fable, so at least I was able to kill the Shaman token to continue attacking my opponent. I had to do some pressure, and I finally find the Death Shadow, which was very good clock, obviously. Opponent discards 2 cards. Opponent discards 2 cards there, getting 2 Bowmaster triggers, and then they play the Hollow Moonlight. I get another trigger, so my opponent then figures out that I have a lethal for the next turn. They didn't find the removal, so that was it. Okay, so pretty easy win in game 3. Just Orcish Bowmasters dealt too much damage to the opponent, and they didn't find a solution on time like in a previous game. But yeah, okay, so that is it. Let's check out the match number 4. Okay, so as you can see, in most of these matches, I played a second all the time, but these hands were pretty good. I had access to turn 1 Asmo, which is decent, but I draw Neonate from the street rate, and I decide that in this case, better option is to go for the Neonate. Discard the Vengevine, and then Asmo to get the Vengevine back. So my opponent played the Stern Scolding on the Neonate, so I just discard Vengevine with the Cookbook and get it back with my Asmo. Attack for the 4 damage here, but opponent has a Lightning Bolt. At this point, it really looked like just a usual Blue-Red Murktide. I played Bowmasters end of turn. Played the second Bowmasters and the Death Shadow to trigger Vengevine. This hand was basically unbeatable for any Murktide deck, but as I will see in the next match, this is not the usual. This was not the usual Murktide deck. It was like more like a controlish version with the subtleties, Furies, Snapcasters, Flame of Ainers. So the version that is kind of popular right now, let's say. Okay, so that was game one. I had the luck in this game because I punted in the last match, in the last game, and then my opponent timed out. Okay, so I went for Burning Inquiry there, and start off with turn one HollowVine, but the rest of my hand was like real trash. Because I was not able to do almost anything. I just had this cookbook and the three Vengevines. My opponent played the surgical, so they absolutely knew my hand. And when I went for the cookbook and end of turn discarded one of my Vengevines, they went for the Snapcaster on the surgical, getting rid of all the Vengevines from my hand, which was basically my only game plan at this point, so definitely not a good situation. Don't have a land, don't have way to lower my life total, can play this Death Shadow, can't do much with the Bowmasters, so pretty bad situation in a game where opponent definitely will have a better draws than me. I decide to go for the play Bowmasters in opponent's upkeep, try to kill the snap. So at least I have option to start attacking there. But opponent has Fury, and yeah, so that is not over, but yeah, like Burning Inquiry didn't end up good for me. Opponent had another Fury, and I concede the match. That was it. Okay, so let's check out the game 3. So we have both had a lot of time on the clock, but the game really ended up lasting long. And my opponent, I think that this was it. Maybe this was another game. I'm not sure, but yeah, okay. I started with a kind of mediocre hand. I had a Neonate, discard Vengevine, cast the Death Shadow, but my Death Shadow is not really it is not really an option here because my Death Shadow will immediately die, so I don't think it's worth it. I think it's better to just play a slower game here and just try to wait for the right rolls. So instead, I decide to go for the cookbook, discard the shadow, and cast my HollowVine, triggered Vengevine, but again opponent had a surgical. Surgical is a very good solution for this Vengevine decks, and not a lot of decks play this card, but yeah, as few of those that play it, it's a really good solution against Vengevine decks, but Vengevine decks are not really common, so okay. My opponent went for the Flame of Aner, kill my HollowVine, and I had a Death Shadow in my graveyard, but just a Stomping Ground in hand, so I wasn't able to put myself below 13, so I had to target Neonate and Bowmasters, which was still okay. I had just 4 cards in my graveyard, so I wasn't in a hurry to discard Ox or whatever. I went for Cookbook, targeting the HollowVine, but my opponent, I don't know what happened, they like misclicked something, and I was able to get the HollowVine back anyway. And now I got the Swamp and 5th mana, so I was able to start casting my 5 mana creatures. Of course, I still had option to like just discard the Ox to Neonate and cast HollowVine for 3, but that wasn't really like anything special. So it was same as casting from hand for 5 mana because I didn't have enough cards in the graveyard to cast Ox immediately. Opponent plays the subtlety, so I put the second hollow one on bottom. And my opponent was really taking a lot of time here. I get the street raid, cycle it. This was helpful because I finally got enough cards to cast the Ox from the graveyard. This means I can cast the Shadow, discard Ox, and finally play Ox. From the graveyard, try to draw the 3 cards, but opponent has a dress down. Okay, so I didn't. Okay, that is it. Yeah, my opponent ran out of time. I didn't punt in this game. That was a different game, but still had just a tiny punt that wasn't really necessary. Okay, that's really important. So that's it. Okay, let's check out the last game of the league, the trophy game. Um, I had the double Bowmasters. I'm always happy to see the double Bowmasters. And yeah, this is like a situation where Bowmasters is really good. It is good in when you're trying to survive, find a way to survive a few more turns because you get two small bodies on the field and the ping when it enters. So I'm able to kill the Goblin Guide and do the Inquiry on my turn, kill the Spear. I had the misclick also again on this turn. I didn't click on one of the Bowmaster triggers, so somehow I just got two counters because of the misclick. But yeah, it was okay. I was in a good situation. I had the option to go for the basic here, make food, gain 3 life. That's like pretty good against burn. My opponent just 2 cards in hand, so I do this in their upkeep. I have a 2-turn clock here. I attack for 6, leave 2 mana open to gain 3 life if needed. Opponent just passes the turn and concedes, and that was the game 1. Let's check out the second game against Burn in the trophy match. Okay, so I just boarded in the Havar Mites and the Furies. For this match, kept a 1-lander. Wasn't really in a hurry here, so I decided to go for a tapped land and immediately play the Asmo. I was thinking maybe of triggering the Vengevine immediately, but I was hoping for them to play a creature, so I decided to wait another turn. They didn't play any creature, just unfortunately Searing Blaze. So I decided to go the Fury into nothing, just to lose 5 life so I can play the Death Shadow and attack immediately for 4. So I did just cast the Fury on nothing and lost the 5 life on the Vortex, but I've had a 7/7 Shadow, and I decided to shock myself there to make this attack lethal. And I still had option to go Cookbook and food open to gain life. So my opponent had lethal, but I had a food to gain 3 and survive on exactly 1 to kill my opponent. So that was it. That was the trophy game. Okay, so As you could see in the last few days on my channel, 3 Orcish Bowmasters Burning Inquiry decks. One was Ragdos Waste Not Rock, second was Grixis Bowmaster Narset Control, and this is the third one, Bowmasters and HollowVine, whatever you call it, with some cool interactions. I think all 3 of these decks have like this same thing. Connection is Orcish Bowmasters and Burning Inquiry. The first version is using Waste Knot as another payoff for the Inquiry. The second one is using Narset as another payoff for the Inquiry, and this one is using HollowVine and some cards that are good from the graveyard. So I have another few builds with Orcish Bowmasters. Clearly, this is the card I'm really into. I really like the card. I just enjoy playing, and I think it's a very fun, balanced card that will be played in a modern a lot in a lot of decks, and it is definitely my favorite one of this edition. And yeah, while everyone else is doing the ring thing, I'll probably be focusing on anti-ring tech. So you can also expect that, plus more Bowmasters in the next week. And that's it. Okay, thank you for watching. Hope you liked the video, hope you liked the gameplay. If you want to help channel, click like, click subscribe, comment in the video. And that's it for today. Thank you, goodbye.